Okay, so this is the second part of a video looking at Strongholds from 13th of June. We'd already played a bunch of T-34-85 games, and now we're partway into our Cromwell Berlins and Cromwells, trying to play a faster setup with a couple of light tanks. On the night we were 13-18-1, which was kind of disappointing. But actually, the first bit of that was the most disappointing part. We're 2-8 with the 34-85Ms set up, so our record was like a little more respectable, 11-10-1, which is still well below where I want to be. But it was a little more tolerable than the initial part of the night. And we're going to take a look at, continue to take a look at, again, this is the second half of those videos from that night, about 30 games in all or whatever it was. We're going to continue to try to improve by looking at what we did well and what we can improve upon. So here we go. Let's look at airfield against the tank, set up with a couple heavies and a couple mediums and a TD and a light. So really pretty scattered. Not, I would say, cohesive lineup on their team. So we're going to try to once again take the fight to them early if we can, because we think it will potentially favor us to fight lights and mediums before the heavies can really get into a great position. So use our awesome mobility and awesome DPM to just jump right in if they allow us to. If not, the play is always to go back and check cap, or often as there's variance. But if they're not here at all, we have to make sure they're not cap rushing us. So we're really well grouped here. There's the heavy. There's another heavy, and they're split. So we probably could have gone in here. But it's also not wrong to just sit here on this corner and nail the KB2. And we should be able to get him out. There's the TD up above us. He's out. Now we need to kind of keep working angles on the heavy. I should watch at what the rest of our tanks are doing here. So we're not getting hammered. We're not losing too much hit points. So we're going to take that as a win. We do, again, I was a little concerned that we were going to get capped by their mediums. So here's our mediums. Now we got a fight where we lost. I'm not sure what happened. We ended up losing two tanks. And we've got ourselves pincered a little bit. I think those tanks right there that are on the other side need to disengage and come back towards us. This guy's gonna need to die. We should probably be pushing the BK right here. You know, I'd say the failing, this obviously didn't go well. We probably lost too much hit points. Not necessarily fighting their heavy, but what happened right after that. We didn't necessarily re-engage things effectively. We probably let the T-78 shoot us too much. And we didn't reconsolidate our forces after killing their KV-2. Again, we had a clean kill on their KV-2 without losing much health ourselves. But then we just kind of let them get into us without using our mobility. So that was pretty disappointing. I think in that last game it would have been reasonable for us to attack into their other heavy. I think we got away with that. Where our tanks were, we could have sent a few tanks to finish off that heavy. We would have been effectively running away from the mediums that came in from the middle. And then the tanks off to the north could have continued to fight into their tank destroyer and such. That might have been a decent enough play. Alright, so we have a mobile versus immobile lineup. Again, we need to take our Cromwells out to a place where we can use speed and distance and try to keep them at range until we can use our mobility properly. So you can see here, as we talked about in the other video, the Cromwells are going to take a little bit tighter line here. Light tank's dead. That's obviously bad. That's it's not really giving us shots. That's a hard thing. It's a hard position to play. Obviously, the KV2 derped him from like forever away, so it's not like he was expecting to get deleted. He could have probably got out, but we're going to continue to. What are we going to do? We probably could have still cap rushed them. We probably should have. I'm going to serve as the other scout, and our 64 is going to get back and get vision elsewhere. So I'm shooting there just to see if I'm spotted. If there's tanks hanging out up there, they would have spotted me if I made that play. Yeah, I mean that playing that middle position. Here's a tank out in the open here, so we need to get lots of shots into him. Hopefully we do. Playing that middle position scout tank is I don't know, dangerous or tricky. You have minimal support, and you kind of have to hedge on surviving versus trying to do too much damage or anything else. So you can see their strategy here is very spread out. Again, I think this probably favors us in some regards because we have tanks that should have mobility and vision control. We got out their middle 84. There's a dude pushing there into our cap that we're going to have to start to worry about. We got the KV2 shot up, the Cromwell. Now I'd like to open the distance and get out of his view range here, and we made the decision to leave those two tanks behind and attack back into the guy that's in our spawn, because I'm thinking that they are split enough where we should regroup and try to fight multi-tanks versus one. I'm clicking on the map now saying expect them to be here, and again, this is something that in my opinion should come with experience, is that you should know based on where their tanks are spotted, you should know roughly that the other three are probably in the middle or up on top of the hill or some variation of that. So as you're approaching the next target or any open area, you have to understand that you're likely to receive fire from that area. So he got the jump on us and was able to get away a lot better than I would have thought. We probably should have left some tanks back and sniped them from a distance. I feel like it's one of those things where their KV2 really shouldn't have effective fire. The Cromwell probably is just now getting into position. We really do need to try to kill this tank, but the Cromwell in front of me is just getting trashed. I really, again, at this point, I'm committed. I have to kill this dude. I'm expecting there to be fire incoming at any angle. There you go, from the other side of the map now. As that was happening, we probably needed to get our Type 64 to reestablish vision back the other way. I'm going to get out. I think the other Cromwell should try to get out. Well, no, he can stay there for vision and fire support. That's an okay position. And then it's just a matter of trying to find out where they are. Again, expecting now that they would have moved, so we didn't find them on top of the hill, kind of oddly. So we need to get our different angles. I don't like that these two Cromwells are right on top of each other. I feel like he's already there. I feel like we need to be getting different angles when we're doing this sort of a thing. Already misses, obviously. We need to be getting different angles, and we're just not accomplishing that if we put two Cromwells on top of each other. Like where I'm at and a slightly different position in this direction would be fine. There, they shot already. Actually looks really cool. So we're not in a terrible place here. We lost that Cromwell in the middle, but we're also we're in a tricky scenario because those guys still are right. Our two Cromwells are right on top of each other. It's not really necessary. We probably should regroup here and try to force a win somewhere. Whether it's out on this flank or working back to the middle. So, I mean, call that a mistake, I guess, of not regrouping to force a win. They're basically just kind of slowly pushing vision into us is what they're doing, which is exactly what I would be doing if I were them. So I think we're probably being a little too passive with it. Again, our theory is that we should have some degree of vision dominance between having our light tanks and having our medium tanks with actually pretty good camo and pretty good vision statistics. So we got the game back to even there. This Cromwell up front is the problem. Is this Cromwell up front of him right here? He's gonna die because he's just too exposed as soon as he's spotted. So he needed to be moving to get more cover. Okay, it looks like he's maybe thinking about it. Our 64 is just trying not to die here. I'm not sure which way to support myself. Again, okay, there's a KV2 again. Why don't we try to kill him? You know, I think it's a common theme that we're not as able to be effective when we play in this style because of various factors. I feel like we should probably commit to something and stick with the commitment rather than asking a bunch of players to make various decisions independently that also make sense for the group. I feel like that's not something we're good at. Again, the KV2 actually probably is a minimal threat. We really should be attacking down into the Cromwell down below. And I think that's eventually what we say here is we got to get going and got to get moving. I guess we thought maybe to try to go get the KV2 and reestablish distance. This is a miscall or misplay or whatever. We should have attacked either up into the cap, not to necessarily disrupt cap, but to attack an isolated tank, or attack down into the Cromwell that was below us and the 58 that was below us. So I guess whatever it is, we'll try to learn from that, I guess. Leave the lesson to learn is to reconcentrate forces and not try to do something that we have a hard time doing as a group. Okay, this battle on Cliff. Gonna try to take a dominant mid position and get early shots. If they're not there, then we're gonna rush to the donut and see me clicking exactly what we're doing. Again, the theory behind this is that they have 64 and a Cromwell that are reasonably fast. Everything else is gonna be behind them. So if we can get early isolation on a couple tanks where the rest of their team can't really return fire, then we're gonna force us to have an early advantage. And you know, that's just game theory. If you can force an advantage at some point, then you're gonna give yourself a chance to win. The idea here is that our mobility allows us to get to the middle faster than them and have a positional advantage early. So we don't see them, and immediately, you know, hopefully I can trust my guys that we would have spotted them by now, but we don't. So they're gonna go. We're gonna go to the middle. I'll often leave a single light tank back up top. At this point, it's been long enough. They're not coming this way, so we need to get in here. And even then, what we're gonna find is that, see, their heavies are just now getting into position. So we can use balance. I'm gonna shoot again. We can use different angles along this hill and along with gun depression to shoot down on them. And so I just point out, like, it takes multiple lanes to do this because it's not like rocket science. You just sit there and you see which tanks have shot or which tanks are not looking at you, and then you shoot those ones. Tank behind us, we really should try to clear that guy out before we heavily engage down the hill. I mean, you could, opposite's true too. I mean, you can, I was lucky. You could make the argument that you should push out now because they have 2 tank disadvantage. You know, those 2 tanks are not on there. We probably got a little heavy going into that. We're gonna be susceptible pushed here, but they didn't recognize that they needed to push up here, which is fine. So yeah, you know, I'm going to use a position here where I have cover from the rock. I'm going to have cover from this rock, and then the opposite is true. We're going to have tanks that can use positions here. You can use positions through the middle. To, you know, use your gun depression and sneak shots. Hopefully not exactly trading. Hopefully working different angles. Hopefully taking positions such that they'll be turning their turrets and sneak shots at them. So, you know, our Cromwells that went down are pushing around. Our Type 64 that was up top is now going around to get shots at different angles. I think that's probably, this Type 64 should just kind of come right in. I think that he's not going to find shots over here, and he's realizing that coming in. So, you know, again, there's nothing fancy about what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to find angles to minimally expose my tank and sneak shots on dudes, especially if I think their turrets are turned the other way. I feel pretty good about him being suppressed by my team. He can't really engage me. And then again, yeah, you see their tank miss, then you go shoot him. Their E2 is looking a different way, I'm going to shoot him. It's just nothing fancy at all. He shot, missed, I can expose my tank. You know, I feel like in general, I don't know, we have some issues with doing things like this as a team. But, you know, now the E2's looking at me, I'm going to be careful about where and how I'm exposing my tank. M6 fired, I'm going to shoot him. You know, I mean, playing corners is just a matter of paying attention to not trading 1 for 1. This is a map that, again, we've had our struggles with playing the 9 line, and what happens is that, I mean, broken record, what happens is we get out-traded and out-microplayed in engagements like this, where they have equally advantageous terrain features. We just get out-microplayed way too often. So, again, the same theory is we're going to try to get to positions using our mobility where we can have the first shot or 2 for free, or, you know, on advantage of we can shoot while they're still getting into position. So that's our advantage here when we do this. This is a really powerful position. You got to be careful about going down into this one because it's hard to get out of. Thinking about leaving right there. But again, the lower part of this hill is better to play. Like playing up here, that's a bad play because you can only get shot. You can do that like very carefully from the cover of the trees. Otherwise, we should be really playing this area right here. And so, you know, you'll find that I'm just gonna watch my micro plays, for instance. You know, I'm being very careful not to expose much of my tank to them. You know, we've got tanks pushing around to the other side now. I think that's relatively safe. We got our Type 64s. I don't remember what they were going to go do, cap or something. They probably should be getting into it here, but I think we were so worried about getting my micro outplayed here on this corner that I think we sent them to cap. But they're not really being aggressive either. They're doing the same thing. They're playing micro engagements and being careful not to take a lot of damage. There's a few tanks that are pushing towards the center here. That's fine. We can reposition to engage them, and so that's exactly what we're doing. Especially now that you see their Type 64 had left and they're respotted, and also their 84, 85M looked like and Cromwell looked like they were probably going to be leaving. So that's a map recognition thing. We're not necessarily trying to cap. We're trying to get some of their tanks out of the fight. So there. Now we have a scenario where we have a couple of the tanks not shooting at our main force, and in fact 3 of them. So we have a mismatch now. So we recognize that they're flicking. So we need to push it. So again, I'm just gonna hold right here. You know, there's no reason that unless something crazy, if something crazy may happen, I don't know if he got tracked or whatever, but like we shouldn't be down to one shot here. Like this is the type of engagement that we've had should dictate that we shouldn't be sitting in the open. We should be barely exposing our tank and taking safe damage until it's time to go. So now it's time to go. Now we'll use our hit points. You know, now we have them considerably split. We're going to go right into them. We're calling targets here. This is a misplay. I should have shot the Skoda. I think the call was the 85M first. You know, again, I'm setting up my next shot right here. You could see all along that as I was killing those guys, I was slowly driving to my next shot here. I was part of the reason is because if I drive even slowly, it's going to make a shot from across the map trickier on me. Part of the reason is I don't need to turn my tank around. I don't need to get engaged with him. These tanks are going to get swarmed by our force, right? So I need to shoot them as I'm going to my next location. And so here I'm going to my next location. Keep pressing the advantage. Now I speed up. You know, I'm just gonna rewind this again. This is like microplay 101, or maybe it's advanced microplays. I don't know. So again, I'm not really driving fast. I'm driving slow, but I'm continually pressing myself into the next shot, and you can see the difference. Rewind one more time. You can see the difference between what I'm doing. I'm gonna look at a little bit wider perspective here. What I'm doing versus what our other tanks are doing. Again, we're way too shot up to make anything good happen with that. This tank's backing up on the hill. You know, that tank's okay. He's tracked, I guess. These tanks are backing up, back and forth, going forward, going backwards. That tank's doing a pretty good job. So you can see we got way too hung up in there. Against, you have to recognize that that's a fight that we're going to easily win with our tank advantage, and we just need to keep progressing. We need to be ready for the next shot. And you know, yeah, they got focus and I didn't. They could have easily gone the other way. Like they could have easily shot me, and that's fine. Like that's the point of it, is to be ready and able and willing to shed some HP in order to get a win somewhere. And so here I should probably just one-on-one this guy. I have hit points. They have two tanks that are not likely to be able to shoot me in return. This guy has terrible gun depression over the back of his tank. I got help, but again, our tank needs to be really careful not to get killed. Well, he has no reason to get killed, right? Like that didn't need to happen. He did not need to die there. I would have been just fine soloing that dude, and instead he came to help me and got himself killed because he got exposed to the Cromwell that's on the other side of the map over there, or the 85M, or whoever killed him. You know, it's just like you have to realize when you're a one-shot that you don't need to take stupid risks, because your gun is way more important than me taking another shot in that scenario. And it's just not possible to communicate all those details all the time in every moment. And it's just something that comes with experience. Again, I'm not saying like I'm the best World of Tanks player, but I have like 50,000 battles, and I don't know how many Strongholds battles I played, a whole bunch. So, pause again. Here's another interesting scenario. They both show up over there, which means our light tank was not aggressive enough, right? I didn't know this, but he should have known that the 85M was, you know, within a one-shot, and he should have known that he needed to keep vision on him. And so he was probably not aggressive enough based on last known spots and last known hit points. I knew what was going on my side of the map, but I couldn't possibly have known what was going on over there. And I think that light tank could have been more aggressive with vision, so that this would have been a one-on-one. We would have lost because we had no hit points, but it would have been a one-on-one over here. So now it becomes, can I sneak one in? That was actually probably poorly aimed. Not quite sneak one in. So again, we have to prioritize killing the one-shot tank in this scenario. Lots of possible ways to approach this. Cap and make them come at us is a good way to do it. I spotted them there. I was actually going to set up in one of those bushes to spot them as they came out to reset cap. That was kind of the plan. But our vision got into them before it mattered. So change the angle. I think they can only assume that our light tank is capping now. Don't think they would expect me to be here. This is a little bit dangerous being in these bushes because it's predictable. If I was on their team, I would blind fire this bush. So part of this is not to cap. Part of this is to get them to respond and hopefully overreact to what we're doing. So hopefully we can catch their one-shot tank in the open. Our 64 is doing an awesome job sneaking shots in, and then also sneaking a spot there. So I'm gonna again prioritize the one-shot tank because guns are so important to get out. He's isolated though, his Cromwell, so we really should push the Cromwell. And kill him. There's depression down here that you can stay low in. We'll kill him before his buddy can respond if he hasn't left. His play, obviously, is to leave. That's a good play. So he left. I still actually think we might spot him right here. Leaving still, not quite. This is a little risky. This push across the open is risky. We're staying low. There's only about a couple positions up on that ridge that they could actually spot us doing this. As long as we stay together and make sure we focus the low health 85M first, we should fare pretty well with the amount of hit points we have. So again, we got to keep surfing the ridge a little bit here to try to spot them. Did they go back to the corner? Did they get all the way out? So underestimated how quickly they were leaving a little bit. That guy needs to die. Again, stationary in the open. He's dead. We're in pretty good shape. But unfortunately, our light tank got spotted in that mess. Cromwell Berlin, I would have blind fired him more, but I knew that he was unlikely to be double tracked. I assumed that he would have fixed that and then drove away. So the game's starting to wear down a little bit. I wanted to get moving. I probably should have shot one or two more blind. So my thought is, how am I going to dig him out? He's likely to drive to the K1 area, was my thought. So I'm going to try to get down the one line before he can get into position. I would expect that he would think that I'd be pushing from the same direction as the light tank was. So I'm going to make the opposite play. I'm going to anticipate that he's going to go to the corner and I need to flush him out of there. Again, I can sacrifice hit points at this point as long as I can get into him and spot him. So I'm going to come from an area where I think I'll be able to have a jump on him. There he goes. He was thinking the same thing. He needs to change the angle, which again is a good play. He should have done that. So lucky snapshot. I probably would have killed him on the next 5 or 6 shots I would have taken anyway. So so again, lots of things there to think about and look at, but again, we got to stop getting micro outplayed. We can't lose 700 of our 800 whatever odd hit points on a ridge because we drive up over the top of the ridge, shoot, get shot by them 3 times, then fall down and then do it again. Like, you got to find ways to expose your tank way less than that, and I think it's maybe like an experience thing. But again, I can't say in every situation just because there's not enough words that can possibly come out of your mouth fast enough to tell everybody what slightly better position they could be in, or to what that they shouldn't lose hit points here, or that they should yes, now is when you should trade hit points. Now is when you let me solo him, sort of thing. I think I even did say that at the time. Let me solo him, don't lose health, sort of stuff. So that's my thoughts on that one. And I mean, ultimately we won, but there's still a lot of things that I don't think went very well that we really need to continue to work on. So Abbey is kind of a, said it before, I say it again, it's a tricky map because it has actually limited lanes of useful kind of fighting territory. Commonly 1-2 line is much more powerful than much of the rest of the map, and it should be prioritized kind of regardless of your team lineup. They have a team lineup that's could be tricky for us. One of the problems with this map is this rock. There's another rock on the other side. You can sit behind that rock and be safe from reset if you're smart. Not everybody realizes that or does that correctly, but both sides have a obvious reset area, both sides have a rock that you can sneak a tank and cap and not be spotted or shot at. Right there you can kind of see the angle. So we've tried this idea before, but it never really has panned out the way we wanted to date. So we're going to leave the mediums in waiting, get our light tanks out, and get them spotted and withdraw, and so they chase us, and hopefully they chase us in a way that's not all together, and we can, you know, annihilate the lead tank before he really shoots anybody, and then shoot the next one before their next tanks can kind of become involved. And so that's the idea. When we don't see them there, we have to get vision out and try to figure out what they're doing. So there's one spotted in the north. Hard to know, is he alone? Cromwell is in the middle. In a team lineup like this, it's assumed that the Cromwell is part of their kind of scouting department rather than their main force. So, you know, they're using a light tank and a Cromwell. We're using Cromwells and 2 light tanks. So we decide here that we should go with our main force and engage their main force. Our Cromwell B is going to stay back to watch for cap rush and such. Tank appears, we say, okay, let's commit, let's go downhill, and then they all appear up there, and we're sort of stuck in limbo. It's like, okay, let's go back up and fight them here. And so there's too much hesitation there, admittedly, and what happens is we're not definitive with what we're doing enough, and we're not really able to focus fire very well either. So usually these fights have to happen from outside in, if that makes sense. The guy around the corner to the right, the most from our perspective, is going to die easier than the guy tucked around to the left. So yeah, a couple issues there. One, we weren't patient with what we wanted to do. We probably should have just stayed and let it happen. Another issue is, you know, obviously they're heavier armored tanks were able to just kind of get right into us and annihilate us. We could have gone down, we were indecisive, so lots of little missteps there that led to problems. Alright, the classic, get to the middle first, get early damage as possible sort of idea is what usually we run with on this map. You know, their lineup is conducive to being separated by just tank speed differences. It's nice to have, I think I was just clicking on the map, it's nice to have a light tank being able to get vision where our 64 is going, get in those really powerful pushes and get side shots if possible. It's always challenging to know if you should really make this aggressive of a push. I feel like you can get away with it, you should. If you're going to get shot up, you shouldn't. So it's useful to see what they're doing. So the danger is rapidly becoming, again, I don't know why we need to get shot from that angle. The danger is rapidly becoming, we don't really want to play their heavies in close quarters. And so, and they're not giving us a choice, right? They're committing their heavies, and I'm sure the rest of them are ready to support them. So it's not like we can attack into them. We probably could have drawn them onto our side of the map and then counterattack the heavies. But we're going to assume that we can play the bulk of our force away from their heavies and take whatever else we see along the other side of the map. I was spotted there. There has to be a guy up here somewhere. There he is. That's the guy that spotted me. Again, their heavies should not be able to really respond to what we're doing. I would expect maybe some of their mediums and our tank destroyers to be up here. So we need to quickly get into position and get whatever is in this area killed. There's their tank destroyer. There's the heavy, there's the light tank. And again, this is one of those scenarios where we just need to be really careful not to take a bunch of damage. There's cover. You know, there's that hill, there's little bunkers. We've already lost a shitload of hit points, in my opinion, for no reason. Right? So if you're spotted, don't get shot at. If you're using hills very carefully, taking quick shots, that's the better scenario than sitting in the open and dying. That Cromwell up there, I'd consider that quite exposed. If he gets spotted, he's gonna die. You know, there's bushes here. I'm unlikely to get spotted. Oh, there, I guess I am spotted. But again, easy to reposition behind cover. So it's pretty stagnant, and we probably, our northernmost Cromwell is probably in an okay position. You can see their VK is way at the north side of the map. Our Type 64 should have all kinds of clean shots on him if he's bush mechanicking correctly. We've got so many tanks with no hit points though that this is going to be tough, regardless. Our 64s hopefully can work together to make something work. One of them died. You know, again, I think this illustrates the point, or a point that I was making earlier. Okay, so we're gonna get some guys with health to reposition and try to take out tanks that, again, are away from their heavies, away from the rainforest. Again, that's probably a bad play. Probably poked too far up there. No, the point is, I should aim that shot. The point is that we just don't have a bunch of dudes that independently are able to, I guess, not get shot in the open. Like, I don't know. I feel like we just make bad decisions when we try to microplay, and you know, this entirely illustrates that point. You know, we found that we had a bad matchup in the city, and we moved along here to go try to shoot them at range, and we're just not able to like do it effectively. Again, I'm trying really hard not to lose a bunch of hit points when I'm doing those plays like that, right? And like, I feel like it seems like there's some guys on our team that aren't experienced enough to. I mean, you saw me changing the angle and using different ways to try to climb that hill sideways so I could get sneaky sideways shots, just like their VK is doing. I mean, he's going sideways to get very sneaky sideways shots on me. He's not overexposing his tank, whereas, you know, our guys got spotted in the open with no cover and got annihilated. So we need to. It's hard. I mean, I don't know like what the answer is other than like get better at World of Tanks, which is, again, it's not like just one thing. It's not like you say, oh, if you only do this, then you're good at World of Tanks. It's like multiple different things that we're just. When we have enough guys on our team, and I'm not trying to like rag my team too much here. Like, we have guys that are better at that and guys that are not as good at that, and we have guys with like clearly less experience, just in terms of number of battles and such. And so like, you can't expect somebody with like a few hundred battles to know what the hell they're doing, or even a couple thousand. But like, you know, ultimately, it's going to hold you back if you have a bunch of guys that don't know what they're doing and can't seem to, you know, do things apart from sit in the open and take damage. So, I mean, I don't know. In a way, this battle was close. In a way, it wasn't. You know, they have several tanks that are close to dead, I guess. I think another just like global just reality is that, or theory or whatever, is just the controlled loss of hit points, I think, is something we just don't do well. I don't, like, stupid stuff is going to happen, and I don't have a problem with getting shot at times, because that's going to happen. But like, the difference between like the different stages of being good at this game, certainly one of the things it has to do with is controlling when you lose hit points. And so, again, other than stupid things and random things and how do they snap that shot or whatever, like that's always going to happen. But like, we need to be in command of our hit points until we're purposely giving them up. And that's the all-in engagement. And we're purposely giving hit points to take guns out faster than they can take out guns, and take out hit points faster than they can take out hit points. And that works great in the right setting. But I feel like we just are way too loose with losing hit points otherwise. And if you do that early game, then you're negating any sort of advantage that you could possibly have later. And I think we're losing a lot of battles because we're way too loose with our hit points, and we're losing them in uncontrolled ways. You know, I mean, we got to find a way to protect our hit points a little better. Like this would be a good risk, right? Like he has to kill that one-shot tank, even if he dies. That's a perfect example of a scenario where you are in control of getting shot. He has to do that. Same thing there. He probably should have tried again to shoot that guy. You know, maybe we were trying to draw or whatever, but like, Firefly ended up having too much health either way. But, you know, knowing when you're going to get shot before it happens doesn't take psychic powers necessarily, it just takes experience, and we need to be better at knowing when we're giving hit points for no reason, taking away our own hit points, giving up hit points for no reason, and when we're doing it on purpose. And I think that's a theme that needs to be improved upon as well. Alright, so said it before and I'll say it again. The key to this map in terms of mobility runs through the northeast portion of the map. Nowhere else is really playable, so it's a deceivingly closed map, but it has open aspects. If they camp, then it's an open map. If we camp, it's an open map. If both teams are going to engage each other in a reasonable way in the early part of the game, then it's a pretty close map, because there's only one reasonable place to do that. So we're going to set up for that. We don't necessarily have an advantage doing that, I guess, in this scenario, other than, like I was just alluding to, our biggest advantage, or the way that we tend to be able to win games, is through focus fire and moving together in a coordinated way. And I think that gives us the best chance to win because of who we are. So if we can take that type of fight, we probably should, because we actually are pretty good at that. We're usually pretty good in close quarters, all of our tanks versus all of theirs. Obviously that's not what's happening here. They're sitting back and camping, and they're waiting. And so we need to establish vision and take different angles, try to take them down and make sure we're not being rushed. So we're going to redeploy our tanks out to various places. I was obviously spotted from the middle somewhere, so I'm just clicking there. You know, an interesting aspect that I sometimes think about too is like the way that I'm shooting there to see if I'm spotted. The way that we end up playing this to them would also look like we're camping, right? Because I wasn't spotted until I was crossing the middle right there. One or two of our tanks was maybe spotted back in the area where they were. So, you know, it's interesting. They could have been doing the exact opposite thing on the other side, but those guys were their scouts that we spotted. You know, so I mean, when I say camping, I'm trying to differentiate the dudes that are just sitting in purely defensive locations and trying not to do anything, versus, you know, a measured, non-YOLO use of their forces, which is what I like to think we're doing. I mean, there's a YOLO component, I guess, at times, but you know, again, to them, when we're spotted, as we're spotted in the timing of the game in which we're spotted, it could easily look like we were just kind of camping and sitting and waiting for them, and then moving into position late. So I think there's a guy out in the middle somewhere, based on where I was spotted from. And I'm wiggling here because I'm worried about artillery. There could, I guess, be somebody back there that spotted me. There's the tank that spotted me. I'm going to stop here and shoot him, or shoot at him, apparently, not shoot him. There we go. And we're being pushed on the north, so this is going to be a slow recognition on that part. So we've got our tanks on the north need to skirt, our tanks in the south need to push in. And we're probably slow to respond and slow to recognize what's happening in this one. And part of it was because, you know, admittedly, I saw their light tank. I thought, ooh, let's get their vision out. And next thing I knew, they were tearing across the north. And so we're slow to respond. I don't know if I said it early enough, but those tanks need to be in the fight immediately, because we're going to get capped out unless we can kill these tanks and either cap ourselves or get back. So yeah, we need to use hit point. This is a controlled use of hit points. I mean, I can't until I have friends, because it doesn't make sense. But now that my friends are here, now we can use our hit points. We're going to go in. And we're going to... But it's always hard. I mean, again, I'm setting up my next play there, knowing that full well that I'm going to have to try to get back and reset. And so is our 64, but he's being chased by their Cromwell. Hopefully we can get a reset with Artie. It's always hard to know. Should you go for the reset? Should you try to cap them and just get one reset? What should you commit to? So obviously they played that better than we did. They held their cap with two tanks in a pretty strong position, and I think we would have been fine if we would have recognized it slightly earlier. I don't think we responded to their push through the northeast side of the map quite quickly enough, and we obviously weren't able to get out of there. You know, they were going to kill a tank when they sent all those in, but we needed to be responding and doing the same thing on the other side. So, you know, if Artie hits there, maybe we win, because I was getting close to being able to reset them. So, close game. I don't know that we did a lot terribly, it's just the recognition of them pushing. Okay, so same exact spawn on the same exact map. I guess it happens. So we're going to, I guess I don't know, it's been a while since we did this, but I'm assuming we're going to do the same thing, because I think it's like, I was just saying, it's like the strongest play. The difference here is that they have heavies rather than 3485M, so they've got, again, a very mixed team, and it's team lineup differential is important too. Like, if all of your tanks are slow, but they're all slow in the same way, that's different than having some really fast tanks, like their fast tanks are, and some really slow tanks, like they're, you know, like a bunch of heavies and some really fast tanks versus all 85M. So I don't remember the thought process to say that right now, but I guess we're not committing all of our tanks. I think we're kind of planning on them being camping. I don't know why. There must have been a reason. I'm being very aggressive. You know, again, I've generally seen that the players just don't play this side of the map, and if they're not pushing heavy down the other side of the map, they're camping. And when teams camp this map, they leave this side completely open. And I think it's partially because they feel like they need to, in terms of, you know, trying to spread too thin. But there's so many crossfire locations over here. I feel like it's just not the best way to do things. So we're going to hopefully be able to use that to our advantage. Again, the way that you in general should be thinking about taking down camps is to get multiple angles of fire, get crossfire, and establish vision out away from your force. So it's a little risky for us to be here because we could easily get pushed by those tanks. They're heavies, so we probably could run away. Yeah, and so what we're seeing, what I'm seeing here is that we have their heavies back here staring at us. I think we have room for our other tanks to maneuver on the other flank. And so I think we're going to send them in. Their heavies are not going to push us. You know, again, that's something I would have been looking for the entire time. I'm going to try to keep them lit and looking at us. I'm not really trying to do damage here, right? So again, that's the realization of what we should be doing. I'm going to try very hard to let them know I'm here and that they want to look at us, but I'm going to also try very hard to not get shot at all and lose any hit points because I'm going to need my hit points later. That guy looked to me like he had no place to legitimately move to, so I drop party on him. Our other tanks are pushing fine on the other side. The northernmost Cromwell was really slow to respond. I don't know why. Of course, the KV-2 is in the sniper position, right? Because that makes tons of sense up above in Overwatch. We lost a tank for 2. I mean, that's probably fine. But now we're going to have vision dominance back on and map control dominance as long as we're able to kind of stay away a little bit from that KV-2. Of course, he derps one of us. Again, that's just like what happened there. I don't know. I wasn't over there. I don't have vision over there. Either we stopped in the middle like an idiot, and even though the dude was spotted, got shot by him, or we got really unlucky. You know, that's pretty much what it was. I hope that we got really unlucky and we were going full speed behind cover because there's plenty of cover over there, and then got unlucky. I hope we don't just sit in the middle and get shot. But again, when you know where their tanks are, especially tanks that can one-shot you, you probably ought to not get shot by them. So we're getting torn apart here a little bit. A lot of bit. Tunnel vision and a half. I don't see the tank. That was a really poor play. I know I have incoming fire from another Cromwell there, so it's able to not be as ugly. And here again, gotta focus the one shot. Now I'm cool trading with this guy at this point, as long as I can keep my hit points away from the heavies. So I'm just gonna trade. Now we're back to manageable here. The KV-2 looks like it's come off the hill. I'm going to work with this Cromwell to not get shot by their heavy. He's looking at, so we're talking. Who's he looking at? He's looking at me. Now you shoot him. They're doing the same thing to the KV-2 over there. Now which way is he looking? You shoot him. You don't get shot. So again, I know that he's looking at me. I'm not going to get shot by him. Like, it just doesn't make sense. There's no need for me to do it. Like, if he ammo racks me or whatever, then the game's, like, manageable for them. Now that their KV-2 is dead, this guy, now I can take some shots from this guy. It matters much less. And in fact, it matters so much less that I'm not using premium for the heavy tank. So there you go. Again, I'm still protecting my hit points, even though I don't really need to. And again, there it didn't matter, but forcing him to miss that shot. I wasn't trying to shoot him at all. I was trying not to get shot by him and hold his turret at me. It's just the little things, and you need to be able to recognize when that's appropriate to do those sorts of things. Sand River, open map against a less mobile team. So we struggled with this map lately as well. Again, I think it goes back, I'm going to beat the hell out of this dead horse, but it goes back to the reason why we do poorly on maps that have features like this. It's an open map that if they're spread and we're spread, it requires 7 people to mostly make good decisions consistently, and we were struggling this night with that. and I've mentioned that. But you know, what can we do to take that aspect out of the game? Well, we can just go in on them. And this is a really uncommon play. I do not see teams play aggressively through this line. So one of our tanks, like our light tank, is going to go get spotted on purpose and get shots. The rest of us are going to stay below the ridge line, and we're just going to be aggressive. And so their light tank there is spotting us. Obviously they know the party now, where the party's at. But we're going to need to get these guys out. This should be a massive overmatch, and there's going to be microplace things and things here too. So again, trying to focus on a tank, and we're calling targets. We're going to set up our next shot. It's always useful to track a tank if you can. I would have hoped to do damage. And then here's another kind of interesting point that can't be overstated. Right here is that, again, it's the awareness. In that scenario, you know, we were going to kill these 3 tanks. But the important part of that is that we do it cleanly without taking fire from those tanks. So they're all dark, so I'm assuming that means that we're not getting shot from them. It's easy to want to rush down this gully here and get all torn up by them. But, you know, you can tell that we did a pretty good job of staying back. I certainly was well aware of trying not to get shot from that position. I don't know if it was said or not, but it certainly needs to be the mindset of, you know, continuing to progress and kill these tanks. We're going to kill them, but minimize the incoming fire from the rest of their tanks. Take away their fire lanes just by positioning alone. And, you know, we don't need to rush down there. We can at the very least play them, and if he falls down into the hill a little more, we can play them from above, kind of from this position, and still not get shot from the hill. So, you know, they're going to try to cap us here. I don't think that they're likely to pull it off, because this map is from the south really easy to reset. So I'm saying, yeah, we got to hurry up, get resets. We should have enough time. They got one guy off a cap now. I told them, you know, you guys just push through. I'll just get in the face of this poodle and distract him. So again, I'm deciding when my hit points are going to be lost in this engagement. So, you know, you could have just ran out there, but I'm going to use the building. I'm going to minimize incoming fire. And now that I have an advantage, you know, I didn't necessarily have an advantage initially. Somebody else shot the dude too, but, you know, micro plays to give myself an advantage. They're forced to come off cap. We've got way too many tanks in close quarter now. It shouldn't be an issue. I don't know what our Type 64s were doing, or if they were just shooting from range, or if they were wondering until he was spotted where the 64 was going to be, because he was spotted more towards their spawn. It's his last known spotted, but they had 2 tanks on cap and the poodle spotted, so we should have realized that we wouldn't need to worry about the 64. I'm not sure, again, I don't know if they were worried about that or not, but yeah, you know, just hunt them down here at this point. So, you know, again, I don't see that play, that hard push into that side of the map very often, but I think it's a valid play for what we're good at. Yeah, ram kill, awesome. I think it's a good play that is in the context of what our team is good at. I think that's something we're going to have to try again at some point. Our usual play on this map is to keep vision control with the light tanks in the middle as much as possible, and then take advantage of the soft cover in the one line. And again, the theme of this map is if you're spotted, you're doing it wrong. Unless you're like purposefully trying to get spotted, right? Or you're purposely trying to push or whatever. But they're not very mobile, so we should be able to reposition. If we catch them at all out of position, we should be able to move and get what we need to get done. Okay, there you go. Heavies spotted away, away from the one line, so our play is to push the one line here. And it's best to try to do it in the cover, like our Cromwells are doing. I'm probably being a little careless, so I'm spotted. I need to get out of there, so I don't get my guys killed. Also shouldn't be ramming our light tank. But anyway, so they have tanks in the cover. Our light tank was going to try to get to the spotting bush in E2. E2s and E8s, you can. I think it's safe to assume that they're using the derp gun until proven otherwise. Their Hellcat's likely to be back there as well. We probably should push them. Their VKs are out of position. Hopefully that's what we do. Yeah, our light tank might slow play it just to keep vision back. Yeah, here we go. So as soon as they're spotted, we should be... no, that's right. He's behind cover, so we had to close. So we're in command here. Yeah, E2's derping. We got to get his back. KV2 is probably going to shut one of us down, but we should be able to kill pretty much everybody else. The correct play here is actually to kill the Hellcat. The KV2 has awful DPM, so we should be able to kill the Hellcat and then the KV2 before he reloads. I guess maybe I was confused with when his last shot was. And again, you can see me constantly setting up my next shot. And now we're just going to fall back down behind the hill and reestablish. Get vision out again. The incoming fire that I just took suggests that their unspotted tank and their VKs are probably in a similar position to where they last were spotted, and they are. So, distance, engagement. Again, trying to always be double bushed when you're shooting here. So we just don't need anything silly to happen. We don't have that much of a tank advantage. All their stuff is full health, so we got to be a little careful. Our light tank, I can't remember what the idea was. I'm pretty sure I said, I'm going to spot, you guys stay invisible. And the light tank was going to try to spot out from the other angle there. Again, I'm going to try my darndest to not be spotted when I'm shooting, so I fall all the way behind the bushes, so I'm double bushed. Drive forward, try to see them, drive backwards to shoot. It's really a common tactic. Okay, so their tanks are leaving their VK behind, so we need to push their VK. That's the correct play. Or as soon as we run out of shots, that's the correct play. I mean, if we have shots, we should take them. But as soon as we... There you go, he's going to fall back. We should close now and kill this lower VK. Their VK should be trying to kill our 64 because it's their only actual chance. Again, this is exactly setting up. You see me just right there, I checked the next VK's position. I keep checking it because I'm setting up my next shot. And our team did a pretty good job of doing that, keeping it dynamic and keeping it moving, because it's hard to hit moving tanks. We've got so many more guns than them that we should be able to... I think we tried to HE kill him here. We've got so many more guns than them at that point that we should be able to each shoot 2 or 3 times and hit them the required 4 times total. As long as we keep the fight progressing. So that was actually a pretty good job of setting up the next movement there after we were engaging that lower VK. Alright, next battle, airfield again. Same old. Let's hit the north side of the corner of those rocks and go from there and see what happens. I've also said it before, but this spawn is really funky because some tanks are sometimes way the far away from the other ones. I don't know why or how they decided to drop in tanks. I don't know what the algorithm is for like strongholds, but think it uses randomly some of the random battle positions, and it ends up spreading you out a lot on this map occasionally. Alright, so we're going to take a fight here if we can get it, because that's what we're good at, and maybe they'll be separated. Alright, so here we go. Skoda's up top. Probably try not to get him. Let him get too far away. Got lucky there that my gun ate that one. Their team isn't here. That tank decides to drive off the edge. So what's happening here is that we have heavies to engage and a medium and a light tank on the hill. So we can reasonably engage tanks without getting too crazy about overexposing to there. It would seem to me that they're not gonna all be here, right? Because they would have already been here if their 3 mediums were going here. So there's a thought of what about cap, but there's a thought of we really need to get these heavies out. So let's get the heavies out. There's a medium that shows up. Again, it's a combination of trying to protect your hit points and lose hit points in a controlled way. So we're pretty good there. I like that these tanks stopped instead of rushing out to get shot from the side there. I like that we're aware of where their other tanks are. This guy fell back. Our light tank's going to get stranded. I realized right there that it's probably not a good idea to get out there. Again, I don't think it was communicated effectively though, because we're going to get a little bit separated here. We're going to get a little shot up because we get a little separated. We're not, I don't feel like we got 2 shot from the hill yet. Those 2 tanks probably did. I think we definitely engaged this tank, probably because we had no choice a little bit early there. So we've got 3-on-1. This should be an easy kill with the 3 tanks that are here. We should get shot like once or twice as a team in this engagement. And I don't know what happened. What did happen there? Because that should never happen. We've got me on full health, another tank on a lot of health, and a tank on low health. So the low health tank needs to not get shot here. You know, he probably gets shot once from the hill, once. No, he got 1 shot by, or else just hit simultaneously. But again, you gotta be able to see where the gun's facing, right? And we can't lose that tank there. Either one of these other tanks, me or this other guy, could have got shot. He gets 1 shot off, but it takes a gun out. So you have to be able to realize that you can't lose health right there. Everybody else needs to be holding the fort. The plan was for us 3 to get him out, and our light tank I think got worried about cap and got out. And then our stuff in the middle, I'm gonna also rewind it here. Our stuff in the middle got way too killed. Like, whatever that means. We got way too killed on that. Okay, so let's take it back another one. I think we're not too bad right here. We lost the initial 2. They lost 2. We're about to get another tank out. I think the replay's broken. There we go. I don't know what's happening with the replay. I think we need to abandon ship. Yeah, we're gonna abandon ship. Oh no, we'll just let it play. Anyway, the tanks in the middle, I don't know how or why. Obviously, I didn't see it, and it's not going to work to look at it because it's not working right. But, you know, somehow they needed to just hold the fort there and stay together, and they ended up getting pushed, and they died to their mobile tanks while we were getting 1 shot by a tank that we should have never lost hit points to. And again, now our Type 64 is again slow to respond. He needed to be moving to get in this fight. If we had any chance to win, it would have been with him shooting his gun consistently while all 4 of their tanks are here, you know, and he's not in it until it's gonna not matter. And you know, maybe we could have left, but I feel like we would have got shot leaving too, so it didn't really matter. I think it started to go wrong when we lost two things. When we lost hit points from the middle a little bit with two of those tanks that overextended, again, probably a bad call or whatever. And then when we got one shot when we had that 3-on-1, and you can't lose a tank when you have a 3-on-1. You know, you gotta realize that he's looking at you and just wait and just let your other friends wail on him until he turns his turret. So, you know, a series of unfortunate or bad plays or whatever. Okay, so the Fisherman's, or excuse me, this is Fjords. I like this map because I think it's really dynamic, but also really focused. This one actually is interesting to me. I'm not sick of this map yet. The action tends to happen in the middle of the map, and it happens typically as a ring around the rosy if they are going middle. Sort of a thing where you try to outmaneuver their tanks based on working around this middle kind of area. So typically we'll get a couple tanks going here, a couple tanks going there, and then a scout or something to kind of get a look. And the whole idea is to not get too crazy with trading. So, you know, they needed to be found. I only took one shot of damage. I didn't overexpose. We know what they're doing now. We know that they have a whole bunch of tanks not really wanting to engage and wanting to sit back there. So we're going to respond to that. We can't go across open field into that, obviously. We're going to regroup with our tanks and get them from the other angle and force them to fight us, again, ideally one at a time. And we can do that if they're all over there. We can do that by capping. It forces them to come back in a rapid way, and in a way that will by nature then get them separated. So this is a close game, but we're going to get a couple tanks into cap, force them to come back, and we're just going to hold corners. So the first couple oh no, we're not going to cap exactly. We didn't decide to do that right away. We decided to try to play him at this corner. Hopefully had the surprise on him. We're getting shot up though, so we're going to commit to cap now is what we're going to do. We got our two Type 64s on cap. They're realizing that they have to respond to that, but we're doing a pretty good job of killing them as they're coming to cap. Now basically we just need to hold this angle and stop them. I was actually trying to just track him there and not do damage, because it's just as useful to not have him pushing into us. We're getting close to the cap. This is really close. I'm trying to protect cap with my tank here. If they shoot me, that's less focus on the cap, and just barely they miss and don't reset us. So that was pretty insane. Pretty crazy win. We just so happened to have enough of a hit point advantage where we were going to make it anyway, but it was interesting. We could have cleaned that up obviously in multiple ways, but I guess it worked. I think we probably should have committed harder to cap and held the tanks that went up to the top with me. We probably should have held and counter punched rather than get out there right away. We probably should have capped with 3 on that short corner and forced them to rush back into us a little harder, and then counter push back in there. So different ways to play that, I guess, and I guess it worked out. I don't think we played that poorly necessarily. So once again on El Haluf, generally the northwest corner is pretty dominant, and no matter what you do, you have to plan on either defending from a push through that or attacking through that way, because if you don't count on their tanks being there, that's kind of like the fastest way to lose basically. I've seen teams go right across the middle, and that works if you have like fast tanks and you overcommit to this without sending some sort of vision. So we're sending some sort of vision down low, and if they're not here, we're gonna immediately go back to cap to make sure to reset it if we need to. So yeah, I like the light tanks taking a little dip down there to make sure that they're pushing out vision. Unlikely to get all shot up if they get spotted and or get spotted at all. And then we're going to have to be careful. We should not get caught making a mistake right here against a bunch of tanks that have more armor than us. So there they are, showing up. This tank needs to die. I guess I'm the only one up here. I think I'd prefer if we went up here actually. Again, I'm protecting my hit points when I'm doing that. I'm not really trying to shoot him. I'm trying to not get shot, and if I hit him, that's great. That one went in, great, but I didn't lose any hit points. So still not, I need to leave if that's the scenario. Still not really enough information to make an educated group play here. It would look like we need to reposition. Because, again, we all too commonly get into close quarters fights, or any fights, that we just don't microplay well. This is probably going to get me spotted. I shouldn't take this shot. I should have got a little farther away. That's a bad play. Their 64 was alone, so we committed to killing him. Everybody else at this point needs to fall back and be ready to reset cap. We're gonna rush cap once they kill the 64. It actually took him a while. He's still not dead. I don't know what the heck's happening there. We lost a tank. He was from crossfire or something. I don't know. We lost a tank where I feel like we shouldn't have. I don't know what happened. A 3-on-1, you can't lose a tank. Like, that's, I guess, the consistent thing. You can't lose a tank with a 3-on-1. So we're gonna go try to cap them and reset. So I'll be invisible again. Different ways to do this. I like this location. I think works. You can go up higher on the hill. You can take different angles. I have Artie, and so I'm going to try to time it correctly that I don't die, but can still use Artie to reset. Because if they get 3 in cap now, they've got a chance to win. So we got to reset there. Or I wonder if I should have been trying to shoot him there. Our tanks are just now getting the cap, so again we need to now, or soonish, is when we need to be getting our resets. Early resets are probably less important than late resets, right? So there's a tank on cap dead, there's a tank on cap reset. But it's the old 3 on cap thing, so they're able to close the distance with cap way faster. So, you know, needing later resets, it would have been much better to get another reset right there. Even when I shot the Skoda, I probably should try to ignore him to get a reset on cap. You have to have a 5-second lead to win, otherwise it's a draw, and so we never accomplished a 5-second lead, and so we drew it. I don't know. I mean, it was clearly within a second. If we got a later reset, a second later, maybe I should have held the Artie a little longer. Lots of little things. Again, the little things win or lose you close games. I guess that was a draw, but you know, one that I felt like we had a reasonable chance to win, and we just kind of didn't get it done. cliff against medium tank lineup. Same old story. We need to take middle and then be able to respond if they're not there. That's, I feel like, the best, for most lineups, the best kind of play on this map. For reasons I've said about 10 million times. So let's see how it plays out. Alright, here's decision point. They're here, so we should be trying to get damage. It's always a little, like, I always feel like when we try to go up top, it doesn't work, and when they try to go up top, it works. Maybe it's those microplay sort of things that I've talked about extensively. Our problem now is that they're going to get to the middle, or they are split, so they have the potential to get to the middle and crossfire us, and you can see I'm setting up for that and clicking on it like I was telling our guys that it's likely to happen. So we weren't able to capitalize on the middle quite effectively. We need to try to keep defensive. The guys to stay need to be defensive, and we needed some guys to push out. We should reestablish the flank, kill the 58, and then shoot back into the middle. I don't really like what I'm doing, actually. I think this is going to take too long. It's safe, but it's going to take way too long. Now we should be able to kill this guy. Again, I'm going to do what I can to keep safe. I should have help. I feel like our other Chroma could have pushed a little sooner. I'm guessing he was shooting back into the middle. I feel like we're overexposing right there, you know? We don't really need to lose a bunch of hit points right there. I think we just need to corner fight. I think we get a little too carried away frequently. So now that's a bad fight for me, so I'm not going to take it anymore, right? So, like, we don't have to take bad engagements. And I feel like all too often we're really willing to take bad engagements. Yes, that dude needed to die, but we didn't. I think we were going to kill him without overextending. So I have hit points here. As soon as he overcommits, I'm going to kill him. So this is, again, this is a little bit different scenario where I have hit points, and we don't have that many options. So overcommitting here is different. But yeah, I think we didn't accomplish what we needed to initially in the initial position, and we didn't accomplish what we needed to when we broke off, went to the donut, and we also split way too much. So there's a lot of little things. I don't know if the tanks in the middle were not defensive enough. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the danger of a team doing something similar to what we're doing, is that it turns into micro engagement that we just aren't very good at winning. They also repositioned around the other side of the cliff kind of nicely. That was a good play. But yeah, we just found ways to lose hit points for bad reasons, like in an uncontrolled way. Okay, next battle. Again, in relation to this being a relatively frustrating night, us feeling like our best chance is to put all of our eggs in one basket, all of our tank eggs in one basket, I guess, and just kind of go for it. We're gonna go down this flank and just see if we can mix it up with them at close quarters, in a not in the middle sort of thing. We're not getting spotted, which is good. Means we should be able to close distance with them. Oh, there's their light tank again. That surprised me. I mean, the light tank was in a good position. It surprised me that they're here this much, quite a bit. There we go. We're driving way too hard in here. You know, up there, that play makes no sense. This play makes a lot of sense. Like, take the fight down here where we have realistic chance to avoid some incoming fire. Now we're avoiding incoming fire because that tank went up there a little bit, but like, you know, what they were all spotted up there. We have half a chance to mix it up with them down low. But again, I'm not sure why did that tank go up there? I don't. Or was that the one that's up there? I think maybe. You know, we're not really focusing fire very well here. I'm trying to. I think they shot already. We don't need to go up the hill there. Again, I don't think that this is way too exposed. You know, there's cover down here. There's dead tanks. It's 3-on-3. So let's try to keep our tanks together. I think we got a little too excited, a little too carried away. We weren't able to. They're gonna ram a heavier tank. You know, we weren't able to make enough good smart plays there. We weren't able to stay together enough. We weren't able to not ram heavier tanks. Well, lots of things didn't go well. I'm just really surprised that they were in the position they were in. Maybe they went to the middle and then repositioned. I don't know. But again, it just accentuates a lot of frustrations that this night was bringing. So we're going to do one more battle after this. So here's our last battle of the day for this session. You know, again, like I said, there was certainly some frustrations with a number of things, whether it was poor plays or bad teamwork or combinations or whatever. So we'll occasionally play the dumbest tank you have sort of thing. So here we are, we're all in the dumbest tank that we have. I didn't realize I didn't have camo on my TOG. It's so important to be visible. So let's go mix it up, see what happens. These things are like, you know, hit point pools. So with no mobility. And right here I said, I think our AT-8 is our fastest tank. Like, he's leading the charge. Our 3485M is derping. It's got the 122 millimeter. Our T-3485. He calls it the T-34-122. I'm surprised we haven't spotted them. There they are. Because if they're at cap at this point, we almost can't get back. So, as soon as we're all spotted, they really should cap us, and we'll have almost no ways to actually make it back. But at this point, we're kind of committed. So, luckily, we find another tank. I think we dispatched the medium tanks back here because we're pretty aware that that's not going to go well. If they want to cap, they're going to win. I wish, you know, I feel like watching paint dry is actually more exciting than watching this tank drive. Alright, more tanks spotted. So, I'm blocking our guy here partially because I can't really move or whatever, but they're actually in a really good position. I think it's a relatively well-known position. This gun's pretty good. So there they are, they're back at base. We've got our medium tanks dispatched to kind of go back there. I'd love to drive down this road because it's going to take me like 10 years to drive down a different path, but with them moving now I can do that. Initially I was pretty worried that I wasn't going to be able to make that happen. And then I'd have to go way the heck around. So Thunderbolt got killed. 485 could get there. Our slow tanks like have almost no choice but to continue the push here. Hopefully we can get this dude out before. Oh, that's a terrible shot. With our awesome DPM, we do actually have good DPM, but and he misses. That helps. Tog's got to push on. The AT-8's got to be the one to reset, so he's going to start hitting back to base because he's so much faster. And I should be able to kill this guy. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we've got Artie. So there's pretty much only one place where they're gonna be. They're gonna be right behind this building, and it's the actual only chance that we have to win. So it was an effective Artie shot, and they got spotted. The other Tog's going back to reset. The light tank left cap, probably a good play. They're kind of like with their hit points just running out of ways to win this in reality. I should have some supporting fire from the back. Yeah, they're perfect. So again, I don't want to really lose hit points here. I'll just track him. I'll let our Tog shoot him from the back without losing hit points. I can see certain turrets turned. There we go. I'll get back on cap here. Oh, these tanks are so dumb. On an open map, this guy actually might have a chance because there's just no way we would spot him. But he doesn't really have very many reasonable ways to win at this point. So I guess as this is like playing out, I'll just kind of continue my thoughts on the evening. So again, our total record was really poor. 13 wins, 18 losses, 1 tie that we probably should have won. The 3485Ms that we played in the beginning were disappointing. I think everybody was hoping that they would be magical like they are for like literally every team that we play, but I think what we found was that they were not flexible at all. Right? They committed us too heavily to various locations. That's a good snapshot there. They committed us too heavily to various locations, and because of their mobility, we couldn't make plays that we otherwise could have made, that we were used to making in like the Cromwells, where we, you know, I think of the Sand River one where I think we could have like counter-capped them and stuff like that. So, you know, they rely on just the tank being a good tank, you taking a relatively powerful position, and being a relatively decent to at least intermediate player that you just play the tank how it's supposed to be played, hull down, taking, you know, doing some side scraping, taking good trades, that sort of thing. And again, try not to get too down on the guys here, but like as a team, I feel like we've got some guys that I think have a good understanding of that sort of thing, but I think we've got some times where we're not doing that correctly. We're not making, again, I keep calling it micro plays, and again, what I mean by micro plays is that I feel like, you know, situations where you need to trade and just read what's going on and make good decisions based on the terrain and where their tank is, and should I be shooting, should I be sacrificing my hit points or not. You know, I feel like we're not coming around to some of those concepts like we should. So we went 2-8 in the 3485Ms. We got only 2 wins out of those 8 games because we were just constantly getting outplayed with no flexibility. When we switched lineups to our fast lineup that we're a little more used to, I think we had a little bit more of a fighting chance. You know, we won 11 games, lost 10, and then that one draw. So again, not really where you want to be on the night. And I guess this is a win. So we were with the fast tanks, we were 10-10 and 1, and then we got this last little win goofing around. But I think there's room for improvement in any regard. Like, you know, in the middle we had some games where things went well and we played pretty well. But again, you know, the point of me making these videos is to try to understand what we need to get better at, and it's going to sound critical when I'm talking about those things, because like it can't not sound critical when I'm pointing out what our team needs to do better. But you know, hopefully we see some of those things and start to learn from some of those things and start to turn some of those terrible mistakes into less terrible mistakes, into good decisions, and end up winning when we would have previously been losing. So it's all in the name of improvement here. So so that's again my thoughts today. I would have liked the 3485Ms to be more successful for us, but I feel like they just don't play to the strengths of us as a team right now, and maybe we could bring them back and work on that. Maybe that would be just like a good exercise, is to play some more games in that to get better at that style of gameplay, so that when we need it, we can use it, but independent of what tanks we're using. Because you know, I've played 3485Ms and Strongholds with other clans and stuff like that, and you know, you can be super successful with them. They're just really, really, really good tanks, but they have some flexibility issues. They're just not quite as flexible as like ultra flexible tanks like Cromwells are. So yeah, that's my thought. My thoughts. We'll keep trying to get better from there.